The cameras were rolling, the stadium lights were blazing, and all eyes were locked on Shedeur Sanders as he took his first snaps in a preseason game that fans had been buzzing about for weeks. But what was supposed to be a simple debut quickly spiraled into a storm of whispers, side eyes, and explosive reactions that no one saw coming. From the very first play, tensions were in the air. Teammates looked uneasy, coaches whispered on the sidelines, and the crowd's cheers turned into nervous murmurs. And just when fans thought they'd seen enough drama, the news broke Travis Hunter was set to line up on both sides of the ball against the Steelers, a decision that sent shockwaves through the locker room. This wasn't just football anymore. This was pride, family legacies, and egos colliding on the grand stage. Behind the scenes, heated arguments erupted, accusations flew, and what should have been a triumphant night for Deion Sanders' son turned into a powder keg of emotions. Fans are shocked, players are divided, and the Sanders family itself is being forced to face questions no one dared to ask before the game had barely begun when the stadium energy shifted. What started as wild excitement for Shedeur Sanders' long-awaited preseason debut quickly turned into something much more complicated. People came to see the son of Coach Prime step onto the field, to see if the hype was real, if the confidence he showed in interviews could translate into the professional spotlight. But as soon as he trotted out, there were subtle glances from teammates, hesitation in their body language as if they were unsure of what was really unfolding. It was almost like some of them weren't ready to let him have the spotlight dot on the sidelines. Whispers started spreading. Some fans swore they saw a wide receiver roll his eyes after one of Shedeur's early passes. The camera even caught a lineman mumbling something under his breath, shaking his head after missing a block. What was happening here? It didn't feel like a team celebrating their quarterback's first steps into the big stage. It felt like jealousy, like hidden resentments bubbling to the surface, and then came the bigger shocker. While Shedeur tried to settle into rhythm, an insider report leaked across social media screens in real time. Travis Hunter was going to play both ways against the Steelers. Offense and defense. The announcement wasn't made in a press conference. It wasn't carefully crafted by a media team. No, it was leaked mid-game. And that leak was gasoline on an already smoldering fire. The fans in the stands gasped. Phones went up everywhere, Twitter lit up with takes like fireworks. Some called it genius, a move that could change the season, a sign that Hunter was the ultimate weapon. But others saw it as a blatant disrespect to Shedeur's moment. How could the focus shift so dramatically from the quarterback's debut to another player stealing the headline? By the second quarter, the tension was undeniable. Shedeur threw a crisp pass on third down, converting beautifully, and yet instead of cheers for him, the conversation among commentators turned to Hunter. Can he really handle playing on both sides for an entire game? Is this too much risk for a single player? What does this say about the team's trust in Sanders at quarterback? The camera cut to Coach Prime on the sidelines, sunglasses on, jaw tight. He clapped for his son's completion, but everyone watching at home could sense it. He was furious at the timing of the leak, furious at the shifting narrative. Insiders later revealed that Deion had words with staff members right there on the sideline, accusing someone of betrayal. This was supposed to be Shedeur's night, he allegedly snapped, his voice carrying through the headset. Whoever leaked this, you don't understand family. You don't understand loyalty. And inside the locker room at halftime, emotions ran even higher. Multiple reports described a confrontation between players, voices raised, some even stepping in to hold teammates apart. Why should he get to play both ways? One player shouted, supposedly pointing directly at Hunter. This isn't high school anymore, man. This is the pros. Hunter, calm but visibly annoyed, fired back, Coach, trust me. Maybe that's the problem for you. Shedeur sat in the corner of the locker room, helmet still on, eyes fixed on the floor. Teammates noticed he didn't say a word. But silence can be louder than shouting, and in that silence, the message was clear. He felt the betrayal. He felt the spotlight being stolen from his moment, his debut. The night that was supposed to define his entrance into the league. Back in the stands, fans were split straight down the middle. Some were screaming for Hunter to get his chance both ways, calling him a game-changer, a once-in-a-generation talent. Others were chanting Shedeur's name louder, trying to drown out the distraction, trying to bring the focus back to the quarterback. The stadium didn't feel united. It felt like a battlefield. Social media only made it worse. One viral post read, Travis Hunter is the real star. Sanders is just here because of Daddy, another said. Shedeur doesn't deserve this disrespect. Give the kid his moment. The debate wasn't just about football anymore. It was about family, about legacy, about who truly belonged in the spotlight. As the third quarter kicked off, Shedeur came out firing, determined to shut everyone up. His passes were sharp, his composure was steady, and for a moment it felt like he was taking control of the narrative. But just when momentum seemed to be on his side, Hunter made a highlight play on defense, snatching an interception and nearly returning it for a touchdown. The stadium erupted louder for Hunter than they had all night for Shedeur. The camera cut back to the quarterback and his expression said it all. A flash of frustration, maybe even anger, before he quickly pulled his helmet down tighter and tried to shake it off. After the game, sources claimed that the locker room scene was even more explosive than halftime. Shedeur reportedly confronted Hunter directly. "You couldn't wait, huh? You couldn't let me have one night?" he demanded, voice sharp, eyes narrowed. Hunter responded coolly, "I don't control the leaks, bro. I just play where they tell me to play," but the conversation didn't end there. Another insider swore that Shedeur went to his father after the confrontation, saying, "Dad, it's always going to be about me fighting for respect. When do I just get to be me, not your son, not the guy in Hunter's shadow, not the story everyone twists?" And that, according to witnesses, broke Deion's heart. Coach Prime is known for his bravado, his charisma, his unshakable confidence. But in that moment, behind closed doors, he reportedly pulled his son in close and said quietly, "They're not ready for you, son. But that doesn't mean you stop. That means you go harder. But don't let them divide us. That's how they win." Still, the damage had already been done. Rumors of division in the locker room spread like wildfire. Analysts began speculating about whether players were truly on board with Shedeur as their leader. Hunter's role became the biggest headline in sports overnight, while Sanders' actual performance on the field seemed to fade into the background, and that's where the real story begins. Because if Game 1 brought this much chaos, what was going to happen when the Steelers were on the other side of the ball? If the locker room was divided now, what would it look like under real pressure? Would Hunter's two-way experiment hold up, or would it collapse and drag everyone down with it? And most importantly, how long could Shedeur stand in the shadows before the weight of legacy, betrayal, and stolen moments finally cracked him? The week leading up to the Steelers game was nothing short of chaos. The media frenzy never cooled down. Every sports show, every podcast, every talk radio station had only one topic: the Sanders-Hunter drama. Some called it sibling rivalry even though they weren't family by blood. Others painted it as betrayal, the chosen son being overshadowed in his own house. No matter what angle was taken, one truth remained clear: this wasn't about football anymore. This was about pride, respect, and survival. Shedeur kept his head down in public, answering questions with calm, short phrases. "I'm focused on the game. I'm focused on the team." But those who knew him best saw the storm brewing inside. Friends close to the family whispered that behind closed doors he was furious. He felt robbed, humiliated, turned into a storyline instead of a quarterback. One source even claimed that he told a friend, "I can't tell if I'm fighting opponents or my own locker room." Meanwhile, Travis Hunter was everywhere. Endorsements started circling. Interviews requested him nonstop. Highlight reels of his interception replayed on loop, always introduced with bold captions like, "The man who can do it all." Hunter didn't seek the spotlight, but he didn't avoid it either. And to some, that was the ultimate betrayal. He was letting the world celebrate him while his teammate and supposed brother-in-arms was being pushed into the shadows. Inside the Sanders household, tension was boiling. Deion had to play both father and coach, a role that became more impossible with each passing day. At dinner, Shedeur reportedly said, "Dad, it's always the same story. No matter what I do, someone else is the headline." Deion tried to reassure him, telling him, "Your time is coming. You just have to be patient." But patience wasn't the answer Shedeur wanted. Patience felt like surrender. The night before the Steelers matchup, the team held a players-only meeting. The goal was to clear the air, to unite before facing one of the most physical teams in the league. What actually happened was the opposite. Multiple insiders described the meeting as heated and personal. A veteran lineman stood up and addressed the room, saying, "We need to stop playing favorites. This ain't high school. We gotta act like pros." The implication was clear, and everyone in the room knew who he was talking about. Hunter, usually calm, lost his composure for the first time. I didn't ask for this spotlight. I didn't leak anything. But don't act like I shouldn't use the gifts I've been given. Coach trusts me, so deal with it. Murmurs spread through the room. Some nodded in agreement, others shook their heads. Shedeur finally spoke, his voice sharper than anyone had ever heard in that setting. This was my debut. My moment. And y'all let it get stolen right out from under me. You can say you're all about the team, but I know what I saw on that field. Some of you weren't playing for me. You were waiting for me to fail. The room fell silent. No one wanted to admit it, but his words cut too close to the truth. Game day arrived, and with it came even more drama. Cameras caught Deion and Shedeur walking into the stadium together, but fans noted the distance between them, the lack of their usual playful banter. Hunter arrived separately, surrounded by reporters, and his every step was documented like he was a superstar. The game started rough. The Steelers' defense was relentless, collapsing the pocket, making Shedeur scramble early. On the sidelines, Deion's frustration was visible. He barked into the headset, gesturing wildly at the offensive line. But no one could ignore what happened next. Travis Hunter lined up at wide receiver and burned a defender on a deep route, catching a perfect ball and sprinting into the end zone. The stadium exploded. Commentators screamed his name. Fans leapt to their feet. Shedeur's stat line wasn't terrible, but it didn't matter. Hunter was stealing the show again. Every big play he made drew attention away from the quarterback. And worse, every mistake Shedeur made, no matter how small, became amplified. When he overthrew a receiver in the second quarter, the cameras cut directly to Hunter shaking his head, a moment that instantly went viral. By halftime, the team was fractured. One source claimed the offensive coordinator snapped at Hunter, telling him, "You're not the quarterback. Stop acting like one." Hunter shot back, "Maybe I should be." The Steelers' game turned into a spectacle. Fans in the stands began chanting, "Hunter, Hunter," louder than anything else. Shedeur fought through it, landing a couple of impressive drives. But each time he seemed to regain momentum. Hunter made a defensive stop or offensive highlight that yanked the spotlight away. After the game, the real explosion happened. Reporters swarmed the locker room, asking Hunter how he managed to play both ways at such a high level. When asked about Shedeur's performance, Hunter replied with a measured tone, "He's still growing, still learning. My job is to do whatever the team needs." On the surface, it sounded supportive. But behind the words, fans and analysts detected something colder, a hint that Hunter didn't see Shedeur as ready. Shedeur, on the other hand, left the stadium without addressing the media. He walked past the cameras, past the microphones, jaw tight, eyes forward. Social media noticed instantly. One viral caption read, "Sanders walks out silent while Hunter shines." The drama is real. In the days that followed, fans chose sides. Hashtags like #TeamHunter and #Team Shedeur began trending. Friends of the family admitted that phone calls between Sanders' relatives were filled with arguments. Some cousins reportedly said, "Hunter is the future. Shedeur is just holding the team back." Others defended him, saying, "This is his bloodline, his father's legacy, and he deserves respect." Coach Prime faced the toughest week of his career. Behind the scenes, he reportedly told his staff, "This is tearing us apart. This isn't football anymore, it's reality TV." But his attempts to calm the storm weren't working. Players were divided, fans were divided, and the media loved every second of it. And then came the leak that pushed things further than anyone expected. A reporter claimed that during practice, Shedeur refused to throw to Hunter for nearly an entire session. Passes went to every other receiver, but never in Hunter's direction. Teammates noticed. Some saw it as petty, others saw it as proof of the fracture. Hunter, when asked about it later, shrugged and said, "Maybe the ball just didn't find me." But the smirk on his face told another story. With the next game looming, the drama was reaching a boiling point. It wasn't just about who would lead the team anymore. It was about whether the team itself could survive this war of egos. And as insiders whispered that even family dinners at the Sanders home had turned into shouting matches, fans couldn't help but ask the question, was this the beginning of greatness or the beginning of collapse? By the time the next week rolled around, the Sanders household was more divided than it had ever been. What used to be warm family dinners filled with laughter and storytelling had turned into cold, Tense gatherings where every word felt like a spark waiting to ignite. One insider described it bluntly. It was like watching a reality show at the dinner table. Everyone had a side and no one was backing down. Shedeur barely spoke at meals. He would sit, scroll on his phone, push food around on his plate, and only chime in when someone addressed him directly. Hunter, who had been invited by Deion more than once, sat across from him with quiet confidence, eating calmly as if nothing was wrong. The silence between them was louder than any shouting. Deion, who prided himself on holding his family together, tried everything to restore peace. He cracked jokes, told old football stories, even prayed longer before meals. But it wasn't working. The tension was too heavy. One night, it all broke. "You think you're bigger than the team," Shedeur finally snapped, slamming his fork down on the table, eyes locked on Hunter. "You love this attention, don't you? You love that every headline's about you." Hunter didn't flinch. He wiped his mouth, leaned back in his chair, and replied evenly, "I don't control the headlines. I just play. Maybe if you stopped worrying about me, you'd see that." The room froze. Family members shifted uncomfortably, trying not to take sides, but Deion's frustration boiled over. "Enough," he barked. "This is family, not a circus. We don't tear each other down like this." But his words didn't land the way he hoped. The tension lingered, heavier than before. Outside the house, fans were feeding the fire. Memes flooded social media showing Hunter wearing a crown with captions like, "The real king," while Shedeur was depicted as sitting in his shadow. Podcasts dissected every glance between the two players during games, calling it the coldest rivalry in sports. Even celebrities chimed in, with some praising Hunter's versatility and others defending Shedeur's right to be respected as the quarterback. Media circus only intensified when a new report leaked from inside the locker room. According to multiple sources, a group of players approached coaches privately, voicing concerns that the team was becoming the Hunter show instead of functioning as a unit. One anonymous player was quoted saying, "We're not here to be extras in somebody else's highlight reel. This is supposed to be a team, not a reality TV season." When that report dropped, it sent shockwaves through the sports world. Was the locker room truly split? Were players actually choosing sides between their quarterback and their two-way star? Commentators debated it endlessly, with some insisting that the team couldn't survive such division and others saying drama like this had the potential to either destroy or define a dynasty. Shedeur, feeling the pressure mounting, decided to make a statement on the field. In practice, he pushed harder than ever, rifling passes with precision, calling out teammates for mistakes, asserting himself in a way people hadn't seen before. One source said he wasn't just practicing. He was sending a message. "This is my team." But Hunter, never one to back down, responded in kind. Lining up against top receivers, he shut them down effortlessly, then switched to offense and made impossible catches that left the crowd of onlookers gasping. The two stars weren't just practicing anymore, they were dueling, competing for dominance in front of everyone. Every drill felt like a battle, every play a statement. Coach Prime watched from the sidelines, arms crossed, face unreadable behind his sunglasses. He didn't intervene, not at first. He let the two of them go back and forth, perhaps hoping the competition would sharpen them both. But when a scrimmage ended with Shedeur and Hunter jawing at each other in the middle of the field, teammates having to step in between them, Deion finally blew the whistle and stormed onto the turf. "This ends now," he shouted, his voice echoing across the practice field. "You two are brothers in this game. If you can't act like it, you don't deserve to wear this uniform." His words carried weight, but the looks on his players' faces told the truth. This wasn't ending anytime soon. The next game only magnified the drama. Early in the first quarter, Shedeur threw a touchdown pass that should have silenced critics. He celebrated with fire, chest out, shouting at the crowd as if to say, "Remember my name." But on the very next drive, Hunter made a leaping interception that had commentators screaming. Once again, the spotlight swung instantly away from the quarterback. The cameras loved it. Every time Hunter made a play, the broadcasters highlighted his versatility, calling him a generational talent. Every time Shedeur touched the ball, the commentary circled back to the question of whether he could handle the pressure of being overshadowed. After the game, the press conferences became another battlefield. Hunter sat in front of reporters, smiling politely as questions flooded in. When asked about Shedeur, he said, "He's my brother. We compete, but at the end of the day, we're family." It sounded supportive, but fans noticed the slight smirk on his face. Shedeur's press conference, in contrast, was short and sharp. "I'm here to talk about the game, not headlines," he said firmly, cutting off a reporter who tried to bring up Hunter. His eyes, however, betrayed the truth. He was tired, frustrated, and perhaps even hurt up behind the scenes. Things only got worse. One insider claimed that after the game, Shedeur confronted his father again. "Dad, you've got to make a choice," he allegedly said. "Are you riding with me, or are you building this team around him?" Deion, torn between his son and the player who was electrifying the league, reportedly replied, "I don't choose between you. I choose winning. And if you can't handle that, maybe you're not ready." Those words cut deep. They spread through the team like wildfire. Players whispering that even Coach Prime wasn't sure about his own son's leadership. Fans picked it up quickly too, with hashtags like #CoachChoosesWinning trending online. And just when it seemed like the situation couldn't get any more volatile, another twist emerged. Reports surfaced that sponsors were circling around Hunter for major endorsement deals. Deals that would eclipse anything Shedeur had on the table. The story painted Hunter as the rising star not just on the field, but off it as well. Shedeur single quotes as frustration reached its breaking point. He posted a cryptic message on social media late one night. "Loyalty isn't real when everyone's chasing cameras." Fans immediately speculated it was about Hunter, and within hours the post went viral. Hunter, for his part, responded with a single word on his own account: focus. The digital back and forth became the talk of the sports world, with fans dissecting every word, every emoji, every like. The team was becoming less about football and more about a soap opera. And yet, people couldn't look away. The drama was too addictive, too explosive, too raw. Now, the question loomed larger than ever. How long could this team function under the weight of such division? Could Shedeur reclaim his spotlight, or was Hunter destined to overshadow him forever? And perhaps the biggest question of all, was the Sanders family bond strong enough to survive this storm? Or was this rivalry going to tear them apart completely? As the weeks dragged on, the whispers turned into roars. The tension that started as subtle looks and locker room murmurs had now grown into a storm so loud that even casual fans could feel it. What once was just a preseason debut had transformed into the most talked about soap opera in sports. The breaking point came during a primetime showdown, a game that everyone had circled on their calendars. Fans weren't tuning in to see a football matchup anymore. They were tuning in to see what Shedeur and Hunter would do, to witness whether the team would hold together or completely unravel. From the very first snap, it was chaos. Shedeur came out aggressive, launching deep passes, barking orders in the huddle with a new fire in his voice. He looked determined, almost desperate to prove that this was his team. Hunter, on the other hand, responded by putting on a show of his own, making impossible catches, flying across the field on defense, feeding off the crowd's energy. The cameras didn't miss a thing. When Shedeur scored on a quarterback sneak, the broadcast immediately cut to Hunter's face on the sidelines, scanning for any reaction. When Hunter made a leaping catch on the next drive, the camera zoomed in on Shedeur, catching the slight clench of his jaw. The tension wasn't hidden anymore. It was being broadcast to millions in real time, and then it happened. In the third quarter, after a blown route between Shedeur and a receiver, Hunter jogged over to the huddle, pointing and shouting something. Microphones picked it up just enough for fans to hear. "Throw it right, man." The crowd gasped, commentators fell silent, and Shedeur's face turned red. He barked back, "Then run it right." Teammates tried to separate them, but the damage was done. The sideline erupted. Fans at home replayed the moment over and over, flooding social media with clips titled "Hunter vs. Shedeur," caught on camera. It was the moment everyone had been waiting for. The fight that had been brewing finally spilling into the open. Coach Prime stormed onto the field during a timeout, grabbing both of them by the jerseys. "You don't embarrass me, you don't embarrass this family, and you don't embarrass this team," he roared, but even his booming voice couldn't drown out the noise. The stadium was buzzing, fans chanting, reporters scribbling notes, commentators speculating in real time if the team had just imploded. After the game, the locker room was a war zone. Insiders claimed that shouting echoed through the walls, with players taking sides openly for the first time. Some yelled, "This is Hunter's team now," while others defended their quarterback, shouting back, "You ride with your QB no matter what." Fists nearly flew before veterans stepped in to separate the groups. Shedeur, eyes blazing, confronted Hunter directly. "You think you're the star? You think they love you more? Fine, take it all. But when this falls apart, don't say I didn't warn you." Hunter, cool but cutting, replied, "I don't need to take it. They already gave it to me." That exchange spread like wildfire after a leak from someone inside the locker room. Fans couldn't believe it. The quotes were on every sports site, every blog, every social media feed. It was no longer just speculation, it was fact. The team was divided, the stars were clashing, and the family was cracking. Back at home, the Sanders family was in turmoil. Sources close to them said that Deion's daughters broke down crying at dinner, begging their dad to fix things. One even said, "You're choosing the team over your own son." Deion reportedly slammed his fist on the table, replying, "I'm choosing both. But if he doesn't learn to fight through this, the world will eat him alive." Shedeur, feeling isolated, confided in a close friend that he was considering drastic moves. "Maybe I need to leave," he whispered. "Maybe I need to go somewhere I can lead without being in someone else's." Shadow, that rumor hit the internet like a bombshell. Fans began speculating about potential trades. Wild theories about where he could go if things completely collapsed. Hunter, for his part, didn't flinch publicly. He smiled in interviews, praised teammates, and insisted that everything was fine. But teammates knew better. One claimed, "Hunter plays it cool, but he knows exactly what's going on. He loves proving he's the biggest star in the room." The drama hit its peak during another nationally televised game. Late in the fourth quarter, with the score tight, Shedeur had a chance to win it. The play was drawn up for Hunter, lined up wide, the perfect setup for a highlight finish. But when the ball was snapped, Shedeur looked him off and threw to another receiver. The pass was incomplete. The team lost. The cameras instantly cut to Hunter, who stood with his arms out, shaking his head in disbelief. Fans gasped. Commentators didn't hold back, saying, "That looked intentional." Sanders had Hunter wide open, and he didn't even glance his way. After the game, the internet exploded. Debates raged, conspiracy theories spiraled. Did Shedeur freeze out Hunter on purpose? Did he sabotage the play just to avoid giving his rival another headline? Fans were shocked, emotions ran high, and the team was left completely divided. The fallout was brutal. Sports talk shows called it the biggest meltdown in football drama history. Fans argued nonstop online. Some said Shedeur had finally snapped under the pressure, while others insisted Hunter was out of line for stealing the spotlight in the first place. Behind closed doors, the family crisis reached a boiling point. Shedeur and Deion had their most heated argument yet. "You're supposed to protect me," Shedeur shouted, according to one insider. "You're supposed to have my back, but all you care about is winning and Hunter," Deion, visibly shaken, responded, "I love you, son, but the game doesn't care about your feelings. You want respect? Earn it. Stop crying about it." That argument left the family fractured. Shedeur stormed out of the house, slamming the door while Deion sat in silence. Realizing the storm he could no longer control. By the end of the month, the narrative had shifted completely. It wasn't about football anymore, it was about betrayal, pride, and survival. The Sanders family was torn in two, the locker room was split down the middle, and fans around the world were hooked on every twist. But the biggest question remained unanswered. Could the team survive this drama? Or was it destined to collapse under the weight of egos and family scars? And that cliffhanger, that raw uncertainty, was exactly what kept everyone glued to their screens. Because no matter what happened next, one thing was undeniable: the Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter saga had become the most dramatic storyline sports had ever seen. And so here we are, standing at the edge of a story that feels bigger than football itself. What began as a simple preseason debut has spiraled into one of the most shocking sagas the sports world has ever seen. Shedeur Sanders fighting for respect, Travis Hunter chasing history on both sides of the ball, and Coach Prime stuck in the middle, torn between loyalty to his son and his duty to the game. The fans are divided, the locker room is fractured, and the family itself is shaken to its core. And yet, through all the chaos, one truth keeps everyone watching, no matter how much tension, no matter how many arguments, no matter how many accusations fly. This drama is impossible to turn away from. Is Shedeur going to reclaim the spotlight and prove he's more than just the coach's son? Will Hunter's two-way dominance cement him as the face of the team, or will the pressure finally break him? And perhaps the most haunting question of all, can this family survive the firestorm? Or are we witnessing the slow collapse of something that once felt unshakable? One thing is certain, the story isn't over. In fact, it feels like it's only just beginning, and now it's your turn. What do you think? Is Hunter outshining Shedeur, or is the media just twisting the truth? Should Coach Penn step in harder or let them fight it out on the field? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because I want to hear every theory, every prediction, every side of this drama. If you loved this breakdown, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next twist in this wild saga. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss what happens next.